Thanks for joining us on our streaming service for this week's Drought Alert. I'm your first alert meteorologist, Callie Zanandri. Taking a look at the drought monitor, of course, conditions continue to get worse with our warm and very dry weather. The big story this week is across Denver County. Conditions have turned extreme, being upgraded from severe, and across the high country, exceptional drought continues to blanket the central and northern mountains with severe drought across the eastern plains. Joining me today is the director of the Colorado Water Center at Colorado State University to help break down why water is becoming increasingly scarce in our state and what that means for our future. Karen, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's dive right in. Colorado's water supply really depends on what happens in the mountains each year. Why is snowpack so critical to our water supply?
Yeah, Colorado is actually quite an arid state, so much of our state receives fairly little precipitation compared to other parts of the country. And what that means is that the majority of our precipitation comes in the form of snow in our winter months and in our mountainous regions. And so the way in which we use that snow is when it melts off in the spring and summer, we store it in reservoirs and lakes for our use later on during the year. And that's the case for much of the western United States.
Yeah, that frozen reservoir is so important. Now that snowpack can vary a lot from year to year, and we know this year the snowpack is historically low. How concerning is this situation?
It is a very concerning situation. So we are at a record low, and what we're seeing is 21% of the median right now, which is, as you said, historically low. When that snow provides the water for the rest of the year, it's a critical situation and one which we should all be paying attention to.
There's a lot to talk about with drought and shortages. What's one thing you wish every Coloradan understood about water scarcity that most people tend to overlook?
Yeah, I'm going to say two things. The first is that, again, we do live in a dry place. And so I think folks who maybe didn't grow up in Colorado or just aren't familiar with water in the West, we live in a dry place and drought is common. So it's not if drought is going to occur, it's when and how severe. And so just kind of wrapping our mindset that, we are going to have water restrictions and to be prepared for drought when it happens. The other thing I want to mention is that, we're all in this together. So I think when we have drought or we have water scarcity, human nature, we want to point the finger at someone else, another state, another water sector. But the reality is we all depend on water. We all use products that use water, and we need to all do our part to conserve and be more efficient in our water use.
Now let's bring it a little bit closer to home. When it comes to everyday life, what are the biggest ways the average household is actually using water?
Yes, so it depends on where you live in the U.S. So in the western United States, about 50% of our water goes towards outdoor irrigation. If you're in the eastern part of the U.S., that number is more like 20 to 30% because they have more rain. When we go to the indoor water use, that other bucket, about 25% of our indoor use is for toilets, 20% for showers, and then, washing machines, dishwashers, leaks are another one. So indoor use is a good one in the West, but specifically our outdoor water use is a big user.
Now, for people watching who want to make a difference, are there simple everyday actions that residents can take that really add up when it comes to our water savings?
Yes, you can, of course, always be more conscious about your water use, turning off your water when you're brushing your teeth or, taking shorter showers, but then taking measures to really decrease your household use over time, including installing low-flow toilets, shower heads, faucets, high-efficiency appliances. And if you want to go the extra mile, think about your landscaping and how you might reduce watering of your grass. Maybe you convert some of your lawn to drought-tolerant plants, which is going to reduce your water use over time.
Great advice. Now, beyond individual actions, there's also the bigger system at play. Do you think we're doing enough when it comes to capturing and reusing water? Is that still a major opportunity?
Yes, in Colorado, we've been doing water recycling since about the 60s and 70s. So the most typical thing you might see is non-potable reuse. So this is where, the water we're using in our homes, going into the sewers and then being treated at a wastewater treatment plant. That effluent from the treatment plant is usually going back into a river or stream. With non-potable reuse, we're using that wastewater to irrigate parks or golf courses, sometimes even residential lawns. What's exciting, and I think another opportunity, is the potential for direct potable reuse. So this is using advanced technology to treat wastewater to a point where we can actually get it to the high quality for drinking water. And so there are a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, and we'll continue to explore those because I'm sure this problem will continue, like you said. It's just how severe the drought will be.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much Karen for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we will see you back here next week for your First Alert Drought Report.